One of the biggest problems I continue to find in the Christian creative space is the severe lack of community. Now, the good thing is that I think that we found the solution. No matter where we go, I continue to see artists after artists say that they struggle with finding other Christian creatives who are like-minded in their faith, but need someone to talk with or need someone that is relatable in their artistry that can be very lonely for many creatives. And that leads me to our special guest today, and that is Shawn Mitchell from OTHRWRLDLY. And we just had an event, Aletheia Legacy, led by OTHRWRLDLY's Shawn, and that is this event called TRNSCND. And I'm going to get into all the nitty-gritty of how I think that we can solve this problem of Christian creatives community much later in this conversation. But first, I want to welcome Shawn. Shawn, it's good to see you. How are you feeling now that we are post TRNSCND weekend?
Cool. Feeling great. Bittersweet, you know. I'm sad that it's over, but then I'm also excited to rest away from TRNSCND prep and all that. Yeah, but no, feeling absolutely just overjoyed with how the Lord has blessed what TRNSCND is and where it's going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so we keep saying TRNSCND, and if you look at the spelling, it's TRNSCND, and TRNSCND as is under the mastermind of your brilliant marketing. Tell us a little bit about TRNSCND. Let's rewind the clock. So we will definitely talk about this past weekend, and we'll talk about the vision, but let's go back in time. And how did you stumble upon this TRNSCND? I'm thinking Back to the Future, and you hit your head like Doc Brown, and you got this brilliant idea.
Yeah. So, no, man, it's all the Lord, and every step of the way. So, beginning steps, we were doing this artist showcase is what we called it in years past. We did. Basically, one of my old pastors told us, he was like, hey, I know you guys have this heart for OTHRWRLDLY. You want to see artists come together and do excellent art in the faith. Well, what if we just, we have this within our local body come together and show what they have and like what they're working on. And I was like, dude, that sounds sick. And he was like, yeah, it'd be like a cool vibe. Like we can just get some coffee, some donuts, and like everyone's it'll be chill. And I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds nice. So, we rolled with that for the first year, and it went really well. But the thing that everyone kept asking me was, well, what's next? What's next? And I was like, dude, I just did this. Like, I give me a little bit of time, and maybe we can think through that. So
this is like 2 years ago, right?
Yes, this is about. Wait, is that 2 or 3 now? Oh, it's 2. Yeah, 2. So yeah, 2 years ago now, right? And I thought I had at that moment, I wasn't really thinking of I was like, oh, I'm sure we will do this again at some point, but I didn't think through it being like an annual thing. But a lot of people seem to really enjoy it, and they loved getting connected with the local artists and that were around them. So I was like, okay, that's sweet. That's awesome. So, but yeah, the rest of that year after that initial artist showcase event that we did, which was totally unbranded, had no name really. I was like, okay, but I feel like there has to be some sort of theme that kind of ties this whole thing together. Cause if you go to an artist gallery, a proper show, there's usually a theme, a tying through line that kind of connects all the pieces. Right. And so, some galleries don't do that, but whatever. So I personally was like, I think there needs to be some connecting idea between the artists, why they're there, the work itself, and, how our faith is incorporated into all that. So after some time of wrestling and thinking through, I thought, what if, what is a simple, clean idea, a word or phrase that helps capture all that? Captures the power of art, the power of our faith, and what it means to be in a community and growing together. And so after some time in my own personal devotion, the phrase transcend and transcendence kept coming back to mind. And, it was kind of in my own personal time of devotion and studying God's word that, I'm just referencing back to the fact that God is above everything, right? And like, he's holy, he is utterly divine, he's pure, he's above us in every single way we can imagine. And then some. So I was like, that was on my heart. But then for God to be transcendent, but then to humble himself into the person of Jesus, the man Christ Jesus, that's so unfathomable to me, that God would ultimately lay down his transcendence to become a finite being, right? So ultimately, according to God, the ultimate transcendence is being willing to submit yourself to your own creation, which is so fascinating the more you think about it. But anyway, the idea of transcendence was there, at least in the theological side of things and the metaphysical side of things as well, in my personal devotion. But then leading into more of the art side of things, a piece of art, its job, its function, its role is to take you somewhere else. That's what art does naturally, whether it's sacred or secular. You listen to a good song and you feel like you have a suspension of belief of where you are, what you're doing, or whatever. It naturally elevates you to something else. So there was just those two ideas that kind of collided in my mind of like, okay, well, what if this event is called Transcend, and the function of the event is that we all observe art and beauty that points us to God and takes us closer to him, right? So, it's the art's transcendent, God's transcendent, definitely not in the same ways, obviously, not at all. But then overall, the idea, the end goal for the night is that everybody, regardless if they know Jesus, they don't know Jesus, that people can come to know him and grow in their relationship with him, right? That's my heart for the event. And in a nutshell, that's what it is. The heart behind it anyway. And as for the whole no vowels thing, that's just, typical otherworldly style.
Very on brand.
Yes.
Yeah. So then, so that's kind of the idea of transcend. And as we talked about this even this past weekend, it's actually not a biblical word, but it's a word that is used to describe biblical stories, features, components, as you talked about with God's transcendence. So you can't necessarily find it right there in scripture, but we see what we would describe as transcend all throughout scripture, with, as you mentioned, the metaphysical side where God is there, but he goes beyond, Jesus, he is beyond the earthly and is in the heavenlies. And I think that that's really cool on how we can use our art to go beyond the right here and right now, but into a deeper level with our understanding of stories and faith. And you see that Christ did that with his parables. His parables were transcending. He used an art form that would stick with them. They've heard the other stuff, right? They knew about the Jewish God and the ways and the rules, but the stories stuck with them in a way that as they're going out and about onto the farm or with their family, it's like, hold on, I remember this. I remember about the guy who sold everything for the treasure on this land. I remember the story of the seeds and what is going to be a good seed and good soil. And so I think that I love that connection there. And so now you get the idea, you got transcend, you had your Doc Brown moment. And so where do we go? So this was last year, right? Last year was the first official transcend.
Yeah. Last year was the first official transcend. And, that was, our first run through of trying to execute the vision. And so part of that was, we want the art and the overall experience to be as high quality as it can be. So originally we had the intentions of inviting out a ton of, really great artists that we wanted to be there. We got to reach out to you and we had you come out, and, part of, you were on our Q&A panel, kind of just, you and me just chopping it back and forth, answering some of the audience's questions on, being a creative and in the faith and an artist in the faith. What does that look like? People had some really practical questions, stuff like that. So yeah, last year was our first official, trying to take a stab at this idea. And you still, pretty much had our local church context in mind. But this, as that was over, again, people kept asking, well, what's next? What's next? So, and that's where, this year we tried to really push, and we tried to, cast a wider net. We tried to bring in more people from the outside surrounding area of Virginia and even out of state. And then, even reaching out beyond the four walls of our church to invite people out to come to Transcend, which I think we did pull off pretty well this year. So it was still had that kind of intimate feel, but still was had a level of execution that I think it was. I keep telling people, I was like, yeah, I could have asked for a better night. Like, God just showed up and showed out.
Yeah, man. Well, and I remember that you sent me a message, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's jump on board. I love the idea. I really love the concept, and then showing up and seeing what you had, especially on a local, with your local congregation of a number of members, giving poetry or performing. And I thought that was really cool, because I think for most people, especially in the creative circles, they probably don't open up to that. They're not thinking through that someone might be writing poetry, in their prayer closet. Someone's, not writing their own music. You almost have to think that you have to go to like Nashville or, New York or
right.
LA to find that. And here you are in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and you got all these individuals who are wanting to, send an offering to the Lord through a creative and artistic expression. And I think that's beautiful. So yeah, I just recently revealed this to you, but whenever I arrived, I got there and I loved what I was seeing, and I loved the potential. And so I got on a phone call with my wife, and last year we can actually go back and we have all the recordings that you and I did for the podcast, our first couple of podcasts about what is otherworldly, about our Q&A panel. So if anyone has questions about that, they can go back to it. But I got a phone call with my wife, and I just said, this is it. This is the future. This is where we're going. And, at this point in time, I was already trying to figure out my own, like, what can I do to have local events mobilize Christian artists and creatives. And I was like, man, Shawn is doing this so well. And, that eventually is what led to, you and I collaborating a little bit more onto this past project, still with you at the steering wheel, but some other ideas and some other vision, which once again, we'll get into that. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, get what is it, the saying, the carriage ahead of the horses, or the buggy ahead. But I thought understanding your vision for what you wanted Transcend to be, this past year was really the first where it was a green light on all systems go. This is it. This is the future. This is where we're going. And, well done, man. Well done.
Hey, thank you. And again, it's all the Lord. It was 3 months of hard prep and work. But, at the same time, even in all my prep and work, there are just things that God did behind the scenes or interpersonally, like with people that I just had no clue about. It was just such a moment where I was like, I had to remember and think this event is cool and all, and it's so great that we get to do something like this. But at the end of the day, the Lord has so many other purposes for it all, and it just, there are still things. I mean, we're basically a week out still, but there are things that are still unfolding out of that were people connecting that needed to connect there, or someone ministering to somebody else that needed to hear something, or possibilities of talking about future venue locations for Transcend in the area. So it's just it's just so many things I was like not mentally like thinking about, but it's like the Lord, what's the passage? I forget what it is, but he doesn't sleep nor slumber. Like, it's so true. Like he has plans far beyond, what we're thinking about in our finite, like, okay, but there has to be like, this there and all this stuff that's so to me important. But at the end of the day, it's like, no, the Lord's going to do what he needs to do to, bring glory to his name, but also like just like continue the goodness he has for us all, whatever that might be.
Man, I think that's a great point, and you were continuing to see the fruit. Thinking of just even some of the post conversations, after the event, just a lot of positives, and I think that's really cool. And my encouragement, I was trying to think of how I wanted to say this, but my encouragement to, anyone listening, regardless of what your discipline or medium is, there is a level where, the doors that the Lord might open, they might have been open, but there's a point in time where you have to jump through that door. You have to go for it. Whether that's taking advantage and messaging someone on social media, if that's because, you got connected to so-and-so and they sent you a number, whatever that might be, we could always look back and go, I'm waiting for the Lord to do this, or I'm waiting for the Lord to do that. What was it? I remember growing up, always hearing that analogy. Maybe you heard it in church. But it was, there was this guy on, stranded on an island, and one by one, like something would come out to save him, and they're like, "Hey, are you in trouble?" He's like, "Yeah, but I'm waiting on God to save me." He's like, "Okay," it was like a boat, or might have been a whale, something that could swim. And he kept going, "No, I'm waiting for the Lord to save me." And then he eventually dies. I think I could be totally botching this.
No, you got it right. You got it.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, and he goes to God eventually, and he's like, "Hey, I was waiting on you to save me." He's like, "I sent you this fish, this whale, this boat. I gave you everything that you needed. I gave you the wood to build a craft. You didn't take advantage of that." And I think that what you have done with Transcend is an example of that. If we're always waiting, you're not going to get a phone call from Elias Vargas on his own, like, hey, I stumbled upon this. Now that could happen. Those are amazing stories.
Possible.
And I've had some of that, some of my stories where I'm running into people at the airport. They're like, "Hey, you want to go to another country with me?" I'm like, "What?" So it certainly can happen. But there's also a point to where the Lord's put you in this environment, and you gotta take a bite. You gotta go for it. So, as stated, you had a lot of local artists. Then you kind of went to a little bit of the outside surrounding areas, which I got to learn what the DMV. Everyone kept talking about DMV, and I'm thinking like, why are we going to get our license? Like, this is, why are we dealing with automobiles right now at Transcend? And so, which I'll let you explain a little bit more about the DMV, but you went local and into the surrounding area within DMV. And then you had some out-of-staters. I know myself, Elias, Next Mike. So let's, tell me about the process of what you were wanting and envisioning with these artists, from different communities, which I think is comparable to Acts 2, as we're sending out the disciples into, to Israel, Judea, and then Samaria. And, so I don't know if that was purposeful, but it seems like there's a little bit of a parallel, which I like because, Bible is truth.
Yeah. Definitely not intentional in the sense that, I sat down with the Bible, opened it up and said, "This is what we're doing. This is the blueprint." I think that God's Spirit, whether if we are aware or not, he's going to be doing, he's going to continue the work that he started in his church, right? And it's the obedience that he asks for that, will always be the model at the end of the day. So if we're obedient, God's ways never really change exactly. They might be new or different, but they're not new in the sense that they're some other type of paradigm or some other type of abstract idea. It's always going to be the heart of building the local church, and then using the church as the body of Christ. So, but yeah, no, it's definitely, as far as, we definitely do have that parallel though with, what you see in Acts, our at Jerusalem, if you could say, is our Fredericksburg, right? We had our local, artists from our Calvary Chapel, Fredericksburg, my home church, artists from there, a handful of, performers from poetry to singer-songwriters, to a whole bunch of stuff, crafts workers, what to call that, artisans of all sorts of types of different things. And from there, I was like, I've done events in the past in the Virginia area, being connected with a handful of artists who kind of had some overlaps in different in those events themselves. And I was like, man, I'd love to have these guys at Transcend. Again, I was talking about earlier, is like I was trying to get them last year. But the Lord has his timing for, his reasons. And this year it all worked out. I mean, every single artist I requested to be there, they're like, yeah, I'm there. Let's do it. Awesome, I don't think, it was incredible. I was just like, I did not, because it's just like last year, I was like, from our previous conversations, I was a little discouraged. I was like, man, like I really wanted them to be there. Like, I know it's all going to work out and it's all good. And like, there's, no bad blood or anything like that. I wish I could have them, because it would just add so much into pouring back into that Fredericksburg area, getting those slightly outside perspectives and voices within that community to, just be them being excellent in their work to, show my local congregation like, hey, like you can be a Christian and like do your art really well. You can be excellent. There's no reason not to be, right? And so again, just, praise God that was able to be done this year. And then going out even further into, all of Samaria, right? We definitely had, next Mike from North Carolina, Elias Vargas from Florida, yourself from Kentucky. So, and that's, again, just, I feel like that rounds it out even further, because we're, still within that East Coast region, getting those voices to even speak into this whole area as a whole. But then on top of that, you guys can take a report back to wherever you're going. And then the news of what the Lord is doing over here is just spreading. So, it is definitely that Acts model. And regardless if I was aware of what, how God was using it all, his ways are always, his heart is going to be for his bride, his body, the church.
Amen. So let's dive in. I want to talk a little bit about the night, and for those who are not there, what happened. And so let's kind of go through some quick high points. And let's start off with just the vendors and those who showed support by, representing their organization. What kind of artists did you have who were waiting at the tables? What did they do? And throw some names out there.
Yeah. So, just off the top of my head, I know we had Callista Stevenson, who, she's a seamstress. Like, she makes, like, if you find her on Instagram, dude, she makes her own dresses. Like, that still blows my mind. I'm like, how do you, like, I understand the whole thing, fabric, you sew at certain points, and somehow but it's just like the beauty of that whole process is crazy. I had Shay, I think her last name is Danae, I think that's how you say it. She had her talent agency called Creatives for Christ, where she offers coaching for the creatives. So, it was great that she was there. I hope that she got connected and people can be poured into by her organization. Had some local artists who, some digital illustrators, had some painters, had, an eclectic bunch, really an eclectic bunch.
Yeah. I saw some animation over there.
Yeah.
I think everything you could think through on a visual art medium, because obviously we had the performers and they did their thing, but we had some of the best artists were, sitting amongst, the tables who just did, amazing things. Leland as well. Leland is a phenomenal artist. Man, okay. So if you were a visual artist, you would have been set up and showcase your work, let people have conversations with you. And then let's go ahead and make transition to the stage. So we kicked things off I thought with a stellar performance from Eva Swanson. She, when I originally saw the schedule, I saw myself, I'm going after next mic, and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be tough. I know that it's going to be a tough act to follow with Mikey going towards the very end. But you kick things off with Eva, which I thought was very interesting. And then whenever I saw it play out, I was like, wow, beautiful move, because you started with transition. You had some of the worship artists and leaders and performers at your church. They did their thing, and it was awesome. I saw everyone worshiping. It was great. So it's like, all right, we're all here on the same page. We're here to love some Jesus, right? And then
that's right.
I thought that Eva was a great transition of I'm going to be worshipful, but there's also, my signature here. There's my artistry on the why I wrote this song, or why I'm lamenting here. And she was one of those who mentioned, how the community, it can struggle, being in this field with a lack of community, it can be very dangerous. But then, she ended with her finale, and everyone was just up and jumping and singing and raising their hands. And I just thought she did a beautiful job, man.
Yeah. Eva's a class act at that. And, we wanted her, and it's not that any other artists couldn't kick it off. I think, we could have put anybody there and they would have done fantastic. But it was, I do believe that there was just a touch she has that, she's very inviting and two, she's very vulnerable. But I think that if you're going to do a kickoff set, you have to have your audience feel like they are included. They're not just observing the work; they're interacting with it in a sense, right?
They're participating.
So they're participating, exactly. So I feel like Eva's work naturally, just the music alone, I think, kind of invites you in. But I knew that like Eva is just kind of as like how she carries herself as a person. I was like, yeah, she's gonna do well to start things off for us. But yeah, her and we had a whole list. Just excellent artists the entire night, ranging from like R&B style, like Eva herself, and then lyric, like towards the second act of the night, Christian hip hop artists, like not just next mic, but we had Artie Rowe, however you're saying your name now, bro. Much love to you, but bro, you be changing it up all. It used to be Sir Artie. It used to be Artie the Fourth. It used to be Artie something else.
He's figuring it out.
I love it though. No, I love it. I'm all for artists, pivoting whenever they are rebranding. It's always important. Anyway, yeah, Kaylin Jones, Josie, like, dude, it was such like the performance side of things. I was like, man, thank you God for like not allowing last year to work out the way I wanted it to, and then but just like
blowing it up,
blowing it up this year, man. I was. Yes, like, let's go.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's one of the cool things is, so we mentioned Eva and then the word lyric. Man, is 90s R&B back? Like, golly.
High key.
Like that.
High key, man.
Man, I love that. I'm like, I'm not hearing this on the radio right now. They brought their A game. And I'm just looking out and everyone's just vibing, and people think about that with a concert, which, we can dive a little bit deeper into the rappers and hip hop artists here in a second, but man, just like the soulfulness, which, if you know your music history, that's why it's soulful, right? There are roots and understanding, my soul, my thoughts, my laments, what I'm doing, I'm crying out to the Lord. And I'm like, man, why are we not doing more of this? I talked with Josie. We're going to have a podcast episode with him. And we just talked about, I think it's very recently, but it's new to me at least. But Jackie L. Perry she had one of her interviews on her podcast where they were talking about why do we not have songs that are more lamenting, where scripture, it's not just, praise and sending, a joyful noise, there is lamenting. Why, oh God, why are you doing this to me? And I'm thinking of whenever, with lyric with the Red Sea, and I'm not sure if I got the exact name of that, but I know that
you got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
And I'm looking at everybody as they're taking it in, and one, they're enjoying the artistry, but the words, the pain, and she talked a little bit about it. I'm not gonna tell her story necessarily, but she said that she has a story. She says that this is not just written, she didn't just write these words down, that they come from there's a background to it. There's a message here, and she took it to pen and paper and made a beautiful song of that. And that's what I think is cool, is because not everyone's thinking about that. Most people, when they think of Christian music, they're thinking of CCM, and they're thinking of whatever I can play on, Way FM or K-Love. And I'm thinking, you know what? Hey, if we can put somehow Shawn as a DJ, or we have our own little radio channel, get these other artists, I think, which nothing against the hope for praise. We need it, man.
No.
Lord,
yes,
do we need
yes,
it?
Yes.
But we also need to know lamenting, I don't know, Shawn, I don't know if you were there once upon a time, but man, when I was a middle schooler and high schooler, I would have a little broken heart. I'd go to music, I would go to music, and it would negatively affect me. It would impact me. And a situational broken heart would lead to, kind of grogginess, and then it would eventually lead into depression, and then you can get dark real quick. And so I'm thinking, wow, what if instead of fueling your soul with this other garbage, it's only going to steer you away from God. It's going to focus more on self and pity, but it's more of a cry out, Lord, where are you? I need you. And, man, I thought we had some of that representation there, which I thought was incredibly cool. But of course, you definitely had your hip hop artist who got everyone hyped and bouncing. And so tell me about the DMV. Tell me about what's going on over there with the rap community.
Yeah. So for those who don't know what the DMV is, let's just start there. The DMV is the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. Now, some people draw hard boundary lines. If you're not from this borough south or this borough in north, you're not really in the DMV. That it's pretty much if you're in Maryland, if you're in DC, or if you're at least in Northern Virginia, I count you as part of being the DMV. Now, if you're in Richmond or Roanoke, Virginia, I can't help you there. You're probably not considered part of the DMV. It's a whole different culture, a whole different subgroup of people. But yeah, I mean, that's in a nutshell basically what it stands for. Yeah, not Department of Motor Vehicles. That's something I always was confused to about as a kid. I was like, so like, it's I thought they were the same. I don't know, but the way my brain worked as a kid, man, I was like, so in California, like the place you go to get a license, is it called like the DMC? Like I thought the last letter was like it was denoting the state. I was so confused.
Yeah.
But now I know.
Yeah.
So
we have that in my region, so I didn't think it was completely outrageous. We in Louisville, we're not claimed by the rest of Kentucky, and we're only 20 minutes away from my house. I can hop on the expressway. I'm 20 minutes away, and I'll be in Indiana. So we call it Kentuckiana. So when I heard that, I was like, they keep saying this, and had to pull out my phone and give a quick Google search, and I was like, all right, I got it. Got it down. And then I understood. But man, it looks like that whole region's making waves.
Yeah, I mean, we've had, truthfully, I think creativity and specifically music, dude. There's no escaping the DMV's impact on music. I mean, from Pharrell to Timbaland, controversially Chris Brown, we'll have to get to that. So I could keep going. There's tons. I mean, literally tons of artists. You'd be like surprised. You'd be like, oh, they're from the DMV. Oh, crazy. Specifically Virginia. Like it's crazy when you start kind of like peeling back the layers. Pharrell has this whole tour called Something in the Water, where it's the whole tour is designed to travel around the Virginia Beach area, and say, you know, something's in the water here, because every time, like there's so many artists that come specifically from this region, this town, this city, and has just gone on to like give the world some of the best music like we've known for the past, you know, at least, you know, couple decades. So, you know, so that's the DMV is quite the I think somebody said it at Transcend. I think it was Mike Patterson, actually, who we'll talk about here in a little bit too, because loves his session, giving a little bit of insight on acting and film. But I think he said it. He said the DMV is the next Atlanta in terms of talent. And, you know, people said Atlanta was the next LA or New York. And I mean, I've been saying that the DMV is, you know, no slouch when it comes to performers and executors. I think that he is absolutely right. It will be the next Atlanta 5-10 years. Who knows? I mean, you know, but because it is just that great. The talent is here. And it's just a matter of connecting those people, man. That's really all it is.
Yeah. So the hip hop artists, you had Josie, you had Kaylin, you had Artie, and I'm trying to think, am I missing any other hip hop artists? I'll exclude Mikey. I'll exclude Mike.
Yeah. I think those are the main three aside from Mikey.
Man, but they got the crowd going, and I thought that it was a great time. I think that was definitely a highlight of the night, and a lot of them have, you know, some of the recent stuff has just been, you know, great. You know, we've been listening to Josie's album in prep for our conversation with him, and I've absolutely loved it. I told him, I said, man, I got you in my ear as I'm at the airport right now and going back home. But then my son has been really enjoying Kaylin's The Wake Up song, and you know, I wish he was there, because that was a highlight.
No, it was. Kaylin is when he got on stage and introduced the whole song, it was just really funny. A lot of people are like, that wasn't scripted, like, because he went up there and was like, oh, before we start this track, I need y'all to wake up. And then he just kept saying that.
Yeah, he played it and then he stopped it. Yeah, I thought that was
played it. Yeah. He played it. We played it and he said, sound booth, cut it off. Wait to start it again, because we're not ready. Wake up. And then he would point to the mic to the crowd, you know, what got them to say, wake up. And then officially we kicked it. It was a really funny moment.
Man, he did good. And then we can't sleep on Artie and his crew, man. He had quite crew. They were just so much fun. And man, I'm thinking, you know, I've been to these festivals, I've been to these concerts and stuff, but I'm thinking, man, I wonder how many people in the room have not been to like something that is very enjoyable, especially with a Christian setting. You know, that sometimes that's a critique, is Christians don't know how to have fun. And I was just thinking about Artie and his crew, and just getting everyone else.
They know how to have fun.
Oh, they were a good time.
They know how to have fun. Yeah.
They were a good time. And he even brought some extra guys with him, right?
Yeah, surprisingly. I mean, again, one of the, like I said before earlier, is like God just, you know, he has so many other plans for things that we just can't see. But somehow through some crazy set of circumstances, Artie is actually friends with Nathan Zed. Now, if you don't know who Nathan Zed is, Nathan Zed was one of the first, if you're, you know, me and Aaron's age, roughly, you remember a little app called Vine, I hope.
It was great.
It was before its time. It was TikTok before TikTok, man. You know, people, some big creators back in the day, you know, got their start on Vine, because it was a whole new introduction onto short form content, and it was a whole different landscape of media, because the only thing that was primarily on video was YouTube for creators. And it was definitely not, there was no such thing as shorts yet. That wasn't even a concept. But Vine did it first. And Nathan Zed was actually one of the first Viners that I remember watching in middle school. And I was just like, I thought, you know, him and a couple other dudes, like similar time, like kind of humor, it was so funny and so creative. But then, you know, apparently through more life goes on, I forgot about Vine as everyone else did. But yeah, Nathan Zed was there as part of Artie's crew, and I was just like, I didn't process in the moment, like afterwards. I was just like, for this guy I used to watch as a kid in middle school to be at this event that he moved to Virginia to go to school here for, somehow met Artie, and then Artie brought him. He recently gave his life to Jesus, from what I know, and like within the last year. And apparently he was at Transcend, and I was told that it really inspired him, helped him like really frame his like faith and art together, because now he's trying to get back onto his YouTube grind after being on like a year-long hiatus roughly. I'm assuming post giving his life to Jesus, probably with some other life stuff going on as well. But like, that's my heart, that people who are high quality artists, you know, who are in the faith just don't know how to contextualize what they're trying to do. So yeah, just to hear, like, not even just the fact that, you know, this guy with millions of views on YouTube, or, you know, has a big fan base, whatever, that's cool. Like, no knock to him. I know he's probably worked really hard for that, but it's not about that to me. It's about the fact that he was touched in a way that he feels like he has a new vocabulary to use when approaching his work, or at least a whole different paradigm to go into that with. So yeah, again, just praise the Lord for going above and beyond like what I was planning for, because at the end of the day, that's what he does best.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed his last video, actually. I thought
it was really good.
I went through it and to hopefully inspire other people. You know, I stated earlier in this episode, you know, make that jump, and my hope is for others who are out there. You know, however well, you know, the world is, you know, I guess they exalt you, or whether, no matter how many subscribers or lack of subscribers or likes or follows, you know, is for all of us, is we're here to make, you know, an offering. And I purposely use that word before a production, is because that's what I think that we are doing here. This is, no matter how, you know, how explicit in gospel it is, this should be an offering for the Lord, and saying, hey, this is a work, not that we're judged off of our works or that we get, you know, praised off of our works. But Lord, this is something that I'm putting at your feet, and I'm giving to you. And I think that was just, I think it was really cool that we had such an eclectic group, even some people hang out in the audience. So Nathan, we appreciate you being there, man. Stay connected with us. We're going to be cheering you on from the sidelines. But moving on, though, you know, beyond these performers, well, I guess these other people are performers too, but beyond these musical performers, we were very intentional on trying to get non-music circles up there. So I thought the dance crew that you had, tell me a little bit about them.
They were awesome. So yeah, Katie Bizarre and her group, they came out. They, you know, she actually was someone from my local church who I had no idea, even, I'm going to be honest and frank, I didn't know who she was, as she even was at her church or anything about her. She admitted, she's like, I'm a little more recluse, so you probably don't know me like that. But after conversations, she's like, I run a dance studio that just started this past year. We have a couple of routines that we're practicing and working on. We'd love to share, you know, 2 of those at Transcend. I was like, dude, let's do it. Because that's a you know, medium I'm not tapped in with. I'm not tapped in with the dance world. But look at God bring it all together. And I thought their performance was absolutely, I mean, these are young kids. Like, you know, I think age probably from like ages like youngest probably 4 to like 8 or something like that. So, and they were fantastic.
Yeah. And they're called his masterpiece.
His masterpiece. Yes. Yes, that's right. That's right.
So you could tell that there was a devotion between the routine. There were some worshipful songs that were in there, and using dance as a form of worship, and trying to redeem dance, man. And that's a thing. You know, we have Jen Dupin, who's here in Louisville, Kentucky. She is part of Elevate Dance Ministries, and so I'm curious to see if we can maybe connect those groups, or if they, you know, maybe they're already in similar circles. But talking through dance, and how, you know, I struggle with talking to people about movies where they're like, man, Hollywood is from Satan, and it's, you know, it's horrible. We should just throw it away. And I'm thinking, man, I don't even know where to begin with the conversation on dance, because dance is actually biblical. Dance is actually straight from the Bible, you know, dance like David. And most of the times when we're thinking of dancing, we're thinking of something provocative, or we're thinking of something that's going to be, you know, not modest and immodest, and it's going to be, you know, it's going to take our eyes from the Lord. And so I think it's really cool an event like Transcend can even, bring in other mediums, such as dance. I thought that they did a fantastic job. And then of course we had our Q&A with Michael J. Patterson that was just mentioned, one of the actors from The Forge. And that story alone, behind the curtain, we talked a little bit about this at Transcend, but, we're talking about, Michael's had one of his biggest years is this past year with the release of The Forge and then Disciples in the Moonlight before that. So two big Christian films of the year. He got to be a part of those projects. And, we ironically, right? We were sitting there, somewhere in Virginia. I'm not from Virginia, but I was at this conference, ICBM, and I meet up with Shawn, and we're planning, we're talking about this event, this Transcend event coming up. And you, Shawn, you give me all the list of people, and I'm like, man, we got a lot of stage performers, but film is powerful right now. We really need to think through who are we going to tap into for film. And we're like, man, I don't know where to begin. And funny enough, Michael J. Patterson sits right next to us at what was the restaurant called?
Man, I
Bulletin?
forget. I think,
is that right? The Bulletin? Bullet?
maybe, sure. Bulletin sounds right.
What city?
It was in Reston.
Reston,
see if I can-
Virginia. So good area. Yeah, it was before we saw Bonhoeffer, and then he came and sat down, and we're thinking, all right, cool, we need an actor. Do you want to jump on board? And then we find out he's like right up the street, right?
Yeah, right, literally in Woodbridge, Virginia. So if you know your area, if you know Virginia like that, Fredericksburg is literally less than 40 minutes south on 95 from Woodbridge. It's crazy to think that, like, you never know. You never know who's where until you have that conversation at Ted's Bulletin in Reston, Virginia.
Ted's Bulletin.
And, it is just so, like, because, like, I would think, because we saw The Forge, an early screening over at Christian Worldview Film Festival. That was my first time seeing it last year. And I saw it. I was like, wow, this looks really good. It's coming out in August. And, like, all these people are like, they're not that well known of celebrities, quote unquote, right? So we use that term loosely. But, you see someone on the big screen and you're like, wow, they must be like living it up somewhere. And like, they must be so distant and detached from my world. But no, like Mike Patterson, arguably kind of sadly, the antagonist of the film, in a way, like is literally in my neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Like, I could go get lunch with him tomorrow if I really wanted to.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just like so crazy what God has been, is always orchestrating, man. And also the reality too, that people are just people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's nothing for the Lord to plop a couple people right where he wants them to say, hey, you guys actually need to connect because I'm going to do something through you, all of you guys, that's going to ultimately glorify me. So, it's just, and help other people in your area specifically. So yeah, like, and again, just his insight and his wisdom on the film world, and I loved what he said toward the beginning, where he said, I think one of the first questions that was asked was, how as a Christian can you go into the film, TV space, whatever have you, and how can you still pursue Christ yet do it? I think it was something like, how can you do a role that may not be as explicitly like a good Christian role, but it's what's the line, right? And his answer was, like, the first thing he said was, well, first of all, just don't compromise your morals, right? Like, don't do something that will call you out of the faith. But, you can still portray whatever that character is, but there's a sense in which you can still honor the Lord with that. And I was just like, what a fantastic answer. Like, it's just a really well thought out, like, nuanced perspective. But yeah, and I know that you had asked him some more questions that were, again, more in like your world of like film and everything. So yeah, do you remember what else you had? Because I was running on fumes that night. I didn't catch everything.
He was spitting wisdom left and right. I mean, he had so much, and I thought it was really cool because, when you're up there and you're feeding off of the audience, in every concert, set list, whatever performance, there's always like, some highs and lows and balancing, the overall night. And I was thinking, man, this might be jarring that we're going to now, slow things down and sit down and, have this open conversation. But as I was looking out to the crowd as he was speaking, man, it was just like everybody was hanging off of every word. They're getting this wisdom. and it was a reminder that not everyone, gets to hear from the film world. And it's even more reason on why we're doing what we're doing is we need to bridge this gap. As you said, man, he's good people. He's every, all these guys, his mentor, also star of the Forge, Cameron Arnett. That same night, I was looking for Sarah and Cameron's like, hey, Sarah's she just ran into the restroom, this community in this world, it's beautiful. And people should be optimistic about being a part of this creative circle and learning from those who have gone through it, done well. And that's the key, right? Is actually listening. If we're just like, oh, that's cool. He's in movies. I could be in movies too. No, you're not. You're missing what he's saying. He is sounding the alarm on the dangers. Now, he's not freaking out. He's not running around with his head chopped off saying, why are we doing this? No, on the contrary. He even said it. He's like, some things are not even for me. I thought that was humbling and powerful. He's like, for me, I'm not getting into that. I can't get into that because it will compromise my belief. Some people, they're like missionaries and they can be in these worlds and it's not going to affect them and the Lord's using them in powerful ways. And that's my hope, right? That's my aspiration, is that we're creating a culture that is cultivating truth, is we're bringing in truth and making it a part of the culture. Whereas, man, everyone else is doing it and their faith, their worldviews, the things that are even anti-God, is we're cultivating it into the culture that is being created by the media and the arts. And I want that. I don't want Disney to burn. I want Disney to be redeemed. Yeah. But likewise, I do think that the church needs films. I think that there needs to be some a little bit more explicit content. And if people choose to do that, then by all means. If not, you better be equipped. If you're going to go off for things like Disney or Universal or Warner Brothers, you need to be prepared that the level of expectation, and not in your talent, but probably your willingness to compromise your beliefs and do whatever it takes to work with them. I mean, they are making you choose who is your master. And I thought Michael gave a great perspective on that, in which we're gonna have that video, that session. We'll have that out soon. And I'm going to ask everybody to stay up to date with Otherworldly, follow, like, subscribe, all the things. Same thing with Aletheia Legacy. And we'll make sure that you get access to that if you think that would be beneficial for you. I thought it was beneficial for myself and for everyone else listening. And, continuing on this track where we, kind of slowed things down is, one of the main headlines of the evening was you brought out Elias Vargas, who got to show his visual art and animation. And for those who don't know, Elias Vargas, he's a phenomenal artist, great animator who's worked with Holvey, Joe Houston from Hillsong. Who else I'm missing? You can
Caleb Gordon,
yeah.
Alex Jean, Afterthought. So I mean, dude, like, basically the whole crew of like John Keith, John Keith, Hawkeye for John Keith, the whole like new contemporary wave of Christian hip hop artists that I'm so thrilled to see the Lord using. Elias has been having his hand in those and in those artists and like helping them, not just with the animation, while he obviously is well known for that, but even like music video directing and further creative input. Phenomenal. Like, he's a jack of all trades and a master of those trades. Yeah. not a master of none, a master of all those things. Like, editing, like, dude, is crazy the talent the Lord has given Elias specifically, and his heart just to, serve those artists and what they're doing, and just wanting to see the excellence to like, taking it up a notch. But his presentation, I mean, phenomenal. Aaron, you've said it a number of times in our conversations offline, but like, if you sat through what Elias said and you don't get it, I can't help you. I mean, Elias's whole presentation which like Mike Patterson's talk we'll have up on YouTube here within, hopefully by the time you're seeing this, it should be up or sometime soon. Just a powerful idea of just using art as a weapon for the Lord, and not being scared to, and being willing to see, okay, I understand the world is corrupt. What they're doing is like, while it might be visually appealing, audibly appealing, whatever, it's still corrupt and it's not good. It's not healthy for the world, let alone a Christian. And to see Elias say, basically like, we can do this at a high level, but we don't have to compromise our faith to do that. And seeing, how because like, I mean, his work, you look at it and you're like, dude, I've seen organizations like, and my past life's coming to mind, but, like Adult Swim, right? Big teams that work on animation projects that are great. And, they're in terms of quality of animation, not message, right? But I mean, I feel like Elias as an individual, his work rivals that of studios.
Oh, for sure. And he has his own signature. I mean, I feel like that's that's lost in Disney. Everyone is now going, when you look at CGI, or, these animation, you see, everyone's going for the big-eyed and, kind of Disney princess look. And quite frankly, I can hardly make out, the difference between, say, Disney's Tangled and How to Train Your Dragon, right? Like we've kind of lost that signature, versus, the 80s and 90s where you could kind of tell like, oh, this was a Bluth film, or this is a Disney film, or, this is kind of some off-brand or something new, or whoa, who's this Pixar? They're coming in and changing the game. Yeah. And now it's all kind of been lost. And I think that Elias, in the midst of everyone looking like copy and paste, or hey, what's Disney doing? Well, let's do the same. No, he has his own look to where now I can pinpoint, I could say, oh, that's probably an Elias Vargas work. Like he has that unique claymation animation, and, man, it's nice. He does a fantastic job, and he led us so well. As you took the words out of my mouth, man, like if you don't understand it off of that, I can't help you. But what he said, it was so essential. So definitely everyone should go check out what Elias Vargas said, at Transcend. I was wrestling, before Transcend on what I should be speaking on. And, eventually, I kind of bring in some practical, how to grow as an artist and how to grow as a Christian creative, or what we might need with building a core foundation. But I kept thinking like, do I need to give the why? Do I need to give the why this is essential, why this is important? Because so often I'll go to these schools or churches and I'll have that conversation. And when I heard him, I looked at you and I was like, I'm not even touching it. He did it best. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I'll piggy off of him. Part 2, okay, where do I go from here is my word. So if you as a creative, saying this as a plug, if you as a creative are thinking through how can I use my art to glorify Christ, you need to listen to Elias Vargas's message, and he dives into his own animation. I'm sure all that will be in the video. It's coming out. Transcend just ended last weekend, so so we're getting all these resources out, but it's definitely going to be beneficial for you. And yeah, go give him a like and a follow. He typically does not open up about his work or what he is trying to say behind the scenes. He usually just drops it and let the animation preach for itself. But we got to have an exclusive look onto his intentions and his why, which I thought was very special.
Yeah, for sure. And Elias, if you're watching this, thank you for that. Because I know that, he even said it on stage. He said, I normally don't even say anything about the work. Most of the time people are always asking me to talk about it and like explain it. But I feel like the art always will tell the story if you're willing to listen and look for it. So just for him to sit down and just like give us the like spoon feed us essentially, his intention, and then even the deeper messages within whatever he's working on. That was a real treat, man. That was a real treat
for sure. And I think that's needed. I don't think that's a critique that he does that. I remember whenever I jumped ship from, my full-time job and we started diving into the ministry into, the Christian creative art space, is I wrote down, why is so much Christian art bad? And one of the biggest reasons, I wrote like 5 reasons, but one of them was there's no mystery. Like, why do we feel that we have to digest everything, spit it up? And I'm thinking of his recent video that came even after Transcend, and I watched it like 10 times, just the reel over and over. And I'm like, I think I know where he's going, but I continue to want to chew on it. And that made it more valuable. That made it more valuable for me to chew on it. And there's also value, not in a postmodern world that I make out the meaning, but it allows me, as a teacher, the best level of thinking is when you take a concept, maybe it's through memory or something, but then you chew it up essentially and you digest it and then you spit it out in a different way. So one of the best ways that you can learn something is that you can hear it, you can receive it, and then you just sit on it for a while. You let it marinate, and then you regurgitate it in a different way, a different meaning. So him giving an illustration or an animation with I know I'm on a soapbox right now, but let me do my thing.
Cook.
But him giving an animation, and I sit through it and I chew on it for a while. I try to think of what he might be saying. I try to think of what I know about the world, and then I sit on it, and then I tell somebody else about what that meaning is. Then that seed of knowledge or that truth has now been incepted into my brain, into my heart, and I have properly taken in the nutrients. And I mean, this is not some creative stuff. This is like, look at your academics. This is how we actively learn. It's not about memorization.
Well, Jesus taught us parables.
Absolutely. It's not about just memorization. It is about, okay, can I sit on something for a while and then also have to give it to somebody else? And then now I know that I've taken on that truth. And so, Elias, kudos, man. We appreciate you, brother. You're a soldier in this war that we are waging, and we're glad to have you on the team. And of course, as we're talking about the team, we can't end, I'm thinking of all the people who helped and served, and even the people at CC Fred who took on, kind of the intermission slots and just continued this night where we were, we're shifting culture and we're worshiping God through the arts. And I'm thinking, a phenomenal performance that Next Mike had, but that's not what sticks out to me whenever I think of Mikey, and also with Bryce Self, who did the video work and the media. He did a phenomenal job. They did a phenomenal job. But I'm thinking of just the servant leadership that they had, and we all know that Bryce served, but we're extremely appreciative of some little inside jokes. That was just for them. But we everyone, I think, saw that that they took ownership of this event, and that they were a part of the Transcend team, not to be a headliner or just a performer, but to be a part of the movement.
Entirely. And that's their heart. Like Mikey told me, every time we talked on the phone or he texted, I was like, oh, this is just a nice dude. Like, he's being cool about everything. But like when we like officially met face to face, like we were getting dinner, and like it was just like the instant connection. I was like, oh no, these dudes like really care about what we're doing. And like, I mean, Aaron can vouch, we were there Saturday, the day of Transcend. We got there to set up at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., something like that. And Mike and Bryce were right there with us. They were right the whole time from 9 a.m.
Opening the doors,
They were opening doors, and then they were also there to help us to the very end. We were all walking out of that church, of the venue together.
Putting tables, chairs, everything away.
Putting tables away, loading up cars. Like, I mean, that was easily over a 12-hour day, and they were obviously they didn't have like a rental car and all that stuff. So even then, though, I don't think they would have just stayed at the hotel, came and then did their thing, and then like I don't think they would have done that. I think they, and obviously, in other artists, like in any performance, any event, things happen. You have a timeline. Cool, like that's not a problem. But it's just like when an artist goes out of their way to like continue to help and build with you like that, it is just so, it means so much. So yeah, Mikey and Bryce, like I mean, really, I mean, not only are they excellent at what they do, their heart is just to serve and to love. Like, and it's so evident in their life. Like, I mean, both of them were like, I could like every like, a couple hours, it was like they were phoning home to see, oh, how are my kids doing? How's my wife doing? And it's just like, man, like that's such a like testimony to like who they are as people too, like they what they value, right? So yeah, so shout out to them for just being, and everybody, like obviously anybody who was there at the event as an artist or as a visitor or whoever, it was like, we all came together to support each other. And I think that was so beautiful. So if, regardless if you were there all day like Mikey was or whatever, you specifically being there, it means a lot to the other artists and myself and Aaron as a whole. So yeah, thank you to all.
Yeah, absolutely. We greatly appreciate everyone who showed up and showed out and helped by participating to make the vision of Transcend a reality and also take it to the next steps. And I think that that's what was really cool is we got to vision cast for the first time. You and I have been talking about this behind closed doors. It's so funny. So we physically met for the first time at Transcend last year, but between Christian Worldview Film Festival, popping in for ICVM, I think I stopped by and saw Grandma after we filmed for Faye in Brazil.
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
So it is just like all these little, what the Lord brought together through social media, which has been awesome. But the one thing that we continue to talk about is where's the direction of Transcend and where's the future? Where do we see organizations like Aletheia Legacy and OTHRWRLDLY and more coming together, collaborating for a movement that we believe that the Lord is moving in? He is shifting. He is putting his spirit upon people. He is, placing people in the middle of a diner just to have conversations. And he's opening up the doors for us to take a chance. And with that, we are so excited. We're finally opening up the door, right? We're finally opening up the curtain for everybody.
Right. Yeah, let's do it.
That's right. So Transcend is going beyond Fredericksburg, Virginia, and Transcend is going to be transcending into the nation. Our next stop is going to be Kentucky. That we are planning on that happening in 2025, and we're looking for other venues and other spots all throughout the. Hopefully one day the world, but right now we're going to start with the nations, and we're looking for pockets of creatives. You heard us talk about the DMV area and what's going on in the Christian communities, and people like Josie, for example, he has this whole like missional thing at Howard University. It's coming up in April. I know he's not alone in this. I know that there are other people in other pockets throughout the nation, and we want to find you guys. So let's just start there, is that Shawn and myself, we are looking to take Transcend into your neck of the woods. And so if you are tied to a Christian artistic community, we want to know about you guys. We have this is being led by a 501c3 nonprofit. We are first a mission. This is not some attempt or some monopoly of all right, we want to own our business. No. We're looking for opportunities. One of the things that we say with Aletheia is that we look to create communities, opportunities, resources, and teach proper exposure. And part of that is we find a lack of that community. It was said so many times at Transcend without us prompting or tempting anyone. It was said on their own of how the lack of community has been the biggest discouragement in this field. It's hard to talk to people. I remember myself when I opened up the doors and said, I'm going to be diving into this space. And I said, I'm going to be looking a little bit more into film. And people looked at me like I was crazy. And they said, well, you trying to be famous? That was actually said to me. Are you just trying to be famous? It's like, no, film is it's a craft. It's like a carpenter. You learn the technique and you learn how to storytell. And no, it has nothing to do with fame. Do you even want to consider the Kendrick brothers who are, who sold millions and millions of dollars worth of tickets for their movies. Do you think that they're famous? I didn't put them in that category, you know.
Yeah.
My whole point though is that we're looking to find these creative spaces, and we want to bring Transcend to you. We're not trying to take away from anything that you already have. We want to complement and be a part of your community, and also give you hopefully more resources for a national network that we're attempting to make.
Yes, facts, 100%. Don't get it twisted.
What is the mission?
So, definitely, as Aaron said, like we're trying to partner with local communities and establish them as their own hubs of creative Christian creative collectives. Right. Our heart isn't that we're going to establish an otherworldly or Aletheia Legacy pop up, and it's going to stay there. We're the only ones who gatekeep Christian arts. No. Our heart actually really is to come to your area, get you all connected, and say, okay, your turn, and then you guys keep it going. So yeah, but the mission of Transcend is, it kind of can be boiled into 3 points. 3 points being art, God, and growth, right? So obviously, art is going to be, we're trying to highlight high quality artists. And, that can mean different things for different people at different points of their artistic development, or their professional development, as you might say. But somebody whose heart is, this ties into point 2, pointing us to high quality art, but also the ultimate transcendence, God, right? And so the art naturally that is shown at these events is geared and designed so that when someone comes and let's say they know Jesus, they don't, they can be impacted, right? Like someone can hear something, a testimony of God's faithfulness, like Eva's coming to mind, like through her songs, right? Somebody could hear something like that and say, wow, God, like, look how you bless and minister to somebody else. And that's kind of ministering to me. Like, thank you for showing me that, Lord. And but yeah, that's point 2. God, all the work is pointing us upward, growing in that relationship. Point 3, growth, right? And not just, and growing in our relationship with God, obviously, first and foremost, the most important, but also we want to like help the artists together who might be there on the stage or off the stage, all grow professionally as well and creatively. So, our hope in the future is to have tailored workshops and stuff like that. So, and further resources so that if you're a music producer, such as myself, you could have a masterclass with somebody like who knows who can show up. For all we know, Teddy Riley could come out of the woodwork and he shows up and gives us the masterclass on how to produce music. Oh, that'd be great. Or whoever. Yeah, right. So that's the heart, is to see high quality art that honors the Lord, that calls us all to grow in our relationship to Him, with each other, and in our craft as well. The unofficial tagline for Transcend is growing in faith and in community. So hopefully that the TLDR is that phrase.
Yeah. And so if you are an artist and you think that this would be good for your community, hit us up, send us a message. We're very much taking this model as missionaries take church planting. We're looking to go into spaces that need that community. A part of that is Aletheia has created a resource called Creative Connect, and we'd love for you guys to jump on there. We haven't went public with it yet, and we won't go too big until 2025. We're waiting to get past the holidays, but it's open, and we are taking people to sign in, create a profile, get connected with the other artists that we've already been working with all throughout the states. And as you can see, there's already pockets forming, and we're just wanting to know who you guys are. And likewise, we're also looking for people who might want to invest into a community. Maybe there's communities where, there's not a lot going on, but someone is interested in investing or donating into a Transcend being brought to their community. And, we bring artists that we are tied into who, like I already stated, are interested in the mission and they want to jump on board, we have access to that. We have those resources. And so, all that being said, if you are looking to grow in the Christian creative communities, reach out to us because we're going to be reaching out to you guys. We're going to be looking for you all. We're not going to be sitting on the sidelines. We're going to be active and looking, and we're going beyond. We're going to be finding these places, and our prayer is that the Lord would bless us with the people who can connect us, who can pray with us, and who is also going to be able to help us invest financially, but also, strategically within community and opportunity and resource building. So if you feel like you are that person or have ties to that person, send us a message. We'd love to connect to you guys. And with all that being said, this was, we purposely wanted to take the time in this post-transcend conversation to be able to reflect. I think that there's beauty in reflecting and talking about the night, smiling, laughing, reflecting on memories. I'm hoping that the artists are listening to this and enjoying, as they reflect on the night, and that it wasn't a flash in the pan, but that we truly got something beautiful here. And although we will be going outside of Virginia, we have every intention of remaining also in Virginia. We're going to keep the movement still, the fire lit, and big things still happening in the Virginia DMV area. And so, Shawn, I just want to thank you once again, brother, for being a vessel for the Lord and allowing him to take this on. Take this on with your time, your energy, your resources, your finances, brother. You could be doing a number of other things, but instead you're on board with this mission, and it's good to have you on the team.
And thank you, Aaron. Thank you for being a resource to myself, to Otherworldly, to our community of people as well. And, thank you for partnering in Transcend with us. Like, I think that's been huge. And it's actually been a huge encouragement to me, because that part of, a similar echo to the whole community thing, right? Like, I was like, man, I just feel like I'm at points, I feel like between Leland and I, we're doing it alone, like, I know people are in our corner and for do your thing and like, praise the Lord, we see what he's doing in your life. But it's like, there's not a lot of people who are like, I'm on the same page. I want to be by your side. I want to see this through to its fruition. So thank you for, you and Sarah and, all the Aletheia Legacy teams, hand in what we're doing, and continued fellowship and partnership with that. It's been a huge help. I mean, I don't think we could have done Transcend this year without you guys being like helping me think through things and sort of helping me like guide where, the Lord is trying to get this to go.
Brother, we appreciate you. I always want to support you. And that's my hope, right? Is we need to be supporting. We need to be investing. We are without excuse. Romans 1 tells us that when we look at the world and we see the things that have been naturally created, we are without excuse. We see God's signature upon everything. And as stated at Transcend, after hearing all those amazing people, seeing what I saw, hearing so much, and it was said, we are still without excuse. We should not be filling up our hearts and our souls and our minds with the things that are going to lead us astray from the Lord. We should be supporting those who are going to be building this community together. And with that, no planned plug-in or whatsoever, but I am rocking my Otherworldly hoodie right now. So there was a new merch dropped.
That's right. Yes, sir. Black Friday sale popping right now.
Right?
So
all right, yeah.
Just saying, 20% off the whole site, bro. So if y'all hit that site, I'm telling you, now's the time to get your orders in.
Yes. So seriously, go out, support your local Christian creative, buy their music, buy their product, support them, encourage them, just donate to them, love them, buy them a meal. They can be very discouraged in this space. And if you are looking into continuing to invest into resources and a ministry that is devoted to growing and discipling creatives, then I definitely want to point you to the resources that Aletheia Legacy has. We are looking for partners. We have a big goal for the end of the year that we're trying to raise so that we can continue to spread the word. If you want to be a part of that, please jump on. And so beyond Aletheia, beyond Otherworldly, there's all these other people. Go start following, go like, go start listening to these people. And I promise you, it's going to positively affect you, and it's going to inspire you, and it's going to lead you closer to the Lord. And that's my hope and my prayer. So, Shawn, this was good. I can't wait to look back and reflect on it as we continue to move forward. But this is the beginning, and hopefully for you listening, this is the beginning for you joining us on mission and partnering with us. We look forward to continue to work with you. So, brother, you take care, and we'll see you next time.
Aaron, likewise.